Today we got some stuff to do on the Subaru. A little bit of mods, a little bit of maintenance, a little bit of fixing some stuff here and there. Let's get into it. So first things first, we're going to check out a couple of issues that I'm having. So this engine I just put in about 900 miles ago. It's been great, but recently I've been having some big fluctuations in my air-fuel ratio. So we're gonna do a smoke test on this, see if I'm losing any boost or got any vacuum leaks anywhere. And then also I am leaking a little bit of oil down onto the downpipe. 85% sure that it is coming from the oil return off of the turbo. So first things first, we're gonna get this thing jacked up and we're going to spray it down with some degreaser, get it all cleaned up, and then take it on a quick drive just so that I can 100% confirm that that's where the oil's coming from. So we are now under the car. As you might be able to see, we've got quite a bit of oil on underneath. All right, so I've got this thing all sprayed down. I sprayed the entire bottom with degreaser and I also sprayed it down. So in the meantime, while this thing's drying out a little bit, we're gonna test out my new tool here. I got a smoke tester online for like 60 bucks, something simple, but it seems to work good. We're gonna test it out on this intake and see if I have any leaks. All right, so I have plugged this thing in just to test it and make sure it works, but I haven't used it on a car quite yet. It's very simple. Got a little hook here. Hook it and make sure this thing is level so the oil doesn't spill out of it. Hook this right here. And we got our battery cables. Those will go to the battery. But first, I want to make sure this adapter fits in the intake. Which seems to fit very well. Looks like we're getting pretty good smoke out of it. I'll hook it up into the intake here. If I can find the hole. So, I'm already finding leaks here. Show you guys here. Looks like one of the pretty big leaks here is actually in the boost controller. This little T-fitting that somebody put on here is leaking like crazy. As well as this fitting here for the PCV. It looks like that there and that there is our culprits. Boost controller doesn't really matter because we got a 3-port to put on today. That I will have to try to find a fitting for, because when I was putting this together, this is a different intake, different turbo inlet than I have. It had this sensor on it. Now, my intake manifold had nowhere for the sensor to plug in. I'm not even sure what it is, so we're gonna figure that out, see if I can find something to go on there. 2 leaks that I have in the intake system. One is on the boost controller, which I'm not too worried about at the moment because we are going to be replacing this boost controller and all the tubing with a Cobb 3-port access port, 3-port boost controller. There we go. Now this other fitting here, I'll have to mess around. I think I have some stuff that'll fit here, but I'll have to mess around and see. First things first, we're going to take this thing on a drive and make sure that my assumption is correct and the oil drain for the turbo is actually what is leaking oil onto the downpipe. All right, now that I'm back from my drive, we're gonna start pulling some stuff apart here, figure out where all this oil's coming from. All right, so we got our jack back up and situated. First things first, we need to pull this intercooler off, give us more access to everything underneath. So it looks like I'm a dummy and I forgot to bring an extension with me. So I will be back. I'm gonna try to go figure this out. So I was actually able to move the intercooler out of the way enough to where I didn't need an extension to get the boot off of the turbo here. So we are good to go. So one of my vacuum issues is due to this piece here. I'm not even really sure what this is. It seems to be some sort of airflow sensor, but this is not sealing properly. So I'm gonna see if I can somehow rig something up to go in this place. Jacket's coming off. All right, that feels much better. All right, so this hose that I'm trying to get off, somebody, of course, injector clamped it on to the PCV valve down there. It's being a pain in the ass to get off, so we're gonna skip that part for now. I do think I found a tube that'll work for that off of my old PCV valve. But for now, we're gonna go ahead, drop the downpipe, get it unbolted from the turbo, and get this turbo out of here. Well, it seems as though this downpipe bolt may have just been slightly cross-threaded. But we don't need that anymore. Now the tough part typically is getting these top turbo to downpipe bolts out. I've done this recently, so these bolts shouldn't be that caked on, but I guess we're about to find out. I'm gonna spray these with some WD-40 and come back to it. Alright, so these bolts have been soaking in WD-40 for a little bit now. We're gonna see if they will come off. Alright, so I got the stock downpipe completely unbolted. One thing I have to still do is undo the O2 sensor from underneath, and then we should be able to pull that whole downpipe out. We've got the factory downpipe out, and the downstream O2 out of the downpipe. So now it's time to see about fixing this leak. So I think I was underestimating how tough this turbo would be to get out without the motor out. When I put this turbo on, I had the whole motor out and I put everything on beforehand. I'm gonna see what I can do here, but it's seeming to be pretty difficult to actually pull this turbo and get to where I need to get to with everything else in the way here. So I'm going to start figuring some of this stuff out and give the camera a little charge here. Hopefully I'll see you guys back here soon. Alright, so change the plans a little bit. I was correct, it was the oil return line on the turbo that was leaking down here. These fittings that somebody put on here are leaking really bad. Not sure if you can see down in there, but I would like to go back to the factory style fitting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up pipe off, and so I can get to that fitting down there, I'm going to take it off. Then I'm going to take a ride home, get the correct fittings to put on this, come back, put all that on, and then we can finally get to the fun stuff and the maintenance. I am back and I've got the fitting that I need. This was a pain to pull off of my old, one of the heads off my old engine. But this is what I need. So now we can go ahead, start pulling the up pipe off. Shouldn't be too hard. And then once the up pipe's off, we can see how difficult it'll be to get the fitting off of the head of this engine. All right, up pipe is out. Here's your culprit. Now I just need to get the receiving end of this off. All right, so we're at the point where we're pretty much just putting stuff back together. What I'm gonna do here, since I wanna say this is a tapered fitting, so as it goes in, it kind of spreads out and just seals up on its own. I'm a little skeptical of that, and I really don't want to be back into this motor again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of RTV just around here, just to make sure it gets a good seal. Even this hose that was on here, pretty unusable in my opinion. Even looks like it's got maybe some cracks in it. So I'm gonna go to the bin and find me a new hose. All right, so with a lot of struggle and a little bit of help, we got the downpipe back in. So now I'm gonna struggle to get the turbo back in. I'm going to leave a lot of this stuff out now because I'm just doing unimportant stuff at this point and I'm running out of storage. So I will restart once we get the turbo back in, and then at that point it's time to start doing some less important stuff but some more fun stuff.